right, team. Welcome to the Boulder Athlete Podcast. I am Josh, and I'm hanging with Jason today. And we are sneaking this podcast in because we just have to. Like, we've got the games coming up next week. And so we've got certainly no shortage of things to talk about related to the things that we know, the way that we're prepared, the way the bodies are feeling. Like, there's a lot there, things that we have tested. And while I'm sure we're not going to give away too many details here, we can talk a little bit about that. And then we've got a new cycle coming up that kicks off next week. And so there's some really refreshing, I think, adaptations to that cycle, as there tend to be, that, you know, this audience is always interested in knowing, like, what was the thinking behind it? How did you cook these up? What's the areas of emphasis and changes we should anticipate? And I love all of that as much as anybody else does. So I think those are the two big things to get into, man.
Big stuff. And yeah, we are as trained and ready for the games, I think, as we can be at this point. With literally, it's Friday night now. We've got Saturday tomorrow, which is essentially an easy day for us, really just kind of a flush out session, unless they release a workout this evening
Hmm.
that you and I need to pay attention to, or if we need to touch it. Certainly not going to go 100% effort on that. But we've tested 5 workouts so far that we know of, and we'll be able to talk through those. And yeah, the news cycle is really fun. And I know that for like you and I, we've just come through a period of maximal effort, really, training as close to the threshold as possible. So when we move into the next cycle, it's going to be a refreshing reset. Really moving into what we would think of as something that's very off-season oriented. But we'll get to that. So you got to stay tuned for that. There's fun stuff. We're definitely turning our schedule upside down every week, and it's always refreshing when we start a new cycle and we have kind of this different emphasis and different days of the week. And I've got some things that you don't even know about, Josh. So I can't wait to share that with you.
Yeah, cool. I'm definitely excited to get into that. Let's start with the thing that is most top of mind, at least for you and I. So if it's not top of mind for our listeners, apologize, but that's where we're going to go first, is the games that is coming up next week. And let's see, we know some things and there's plenty of things that we don't know. I think one of the things we're still waiting on is how many workouts are going to be released, or how many workouts will there be, period. We do know the first 5 workouts. And as you said, we've both had a chance to test those out and get a feel for them. And I think there's some genuine excitement for some of them and maybe a little dread for some from my side. But yeah, give me your take on what we know and what we don't know.
Yeah, we know the first 5 workouts that cover the first 2 days of a 3-day competition. So the mystery, the unknown to us at this point is, will we have 1 or 2 workouts on that final day? What will those look like? Will it be 1 workout with 2 scores, maybe back-to-back workouts? I think about scenarios we've had historically at the games. There was a third day at the games in 2019 that had 3 back-to-back events, 300 points within 18 minutes of effort. It was a 2-rep max overhead squat, 2-minute reset into a workout that had snatches and bar muscle ups, 2-minute reset into a workout that had, I want to say, lightweight snatches and pull ups. And again, 3 100-point scores on the third day that could literally change everything. Whatever the points were going into that, within 18 minutes or even less, than it might have been more like 15 minutes, within that time frame, the entire leaderboard could be shuffled given those 3 events. Now, that was my second year at the CrossFit Games. I still felt really new to this, so I had no idea the impact that the 300 points can make on a leaderboard. Maybe we've got that coming for our third day. That'd be wild and exciting and interesting. At worst, we'll have 1 more workout, which would leave us with 6 workouts. I don't know about you, but for me, yeah, I want more than 6
Yeah.
scored events, right? 7 would be great. 8 would be
6 feels
crazy. I
like
don't
a
know.
local comp. You're going to get that at
Yeah,
a local comp. At the
yeah,
game, you got to have more.
gotta have more. But they haven't left a lot of room for that. On the third day at the games, you have to have the events happen. You have to allow time for that final hour of appeals before the leaderboard is finalized and athletes are sequestered for drug testing, and then an actual podium ceremony. So all of those things have to happen on that last day. So really, I know that the guys at Legends, Joe and Bob, have worked more closely with CrossFit this year than they have in previous years. So maybe there's something creative up their sleeves. Maybe we'll know about it, Josh, tonight. It's Friday night at 6 o'clock your time, 8 o'clock my time. We should see something on social media as per the cadence that they've held up till this point. By the time people see this, they'll know what it is. You and I are just still stuck in this. Like, this is
Yeah.
what our brains are thinking right now, all these scenarios. But we've got 5 workouts, hopefully, hopefully two more, at least one more.
Yeah, and as I'm looking at these workouts, I don't have the time caps written for all of them, but event 1 is the run. It's 3 rounds, a 600-meter run followed by a 600-meter weighted run, and so that's definitely the longest time domain that we have. I don't know if there's a cap on that, but it's gonna take, I'm sure, between 18 and 25 minutes is my guess, depending on the accuracy of the 600 meters, if it's actually 600 meters or if it's not 600 meters. And then workout number 2 is the 4 rounds, 25 toes to bar, 75 double unders, and then the ascending ladder of snatches. The weights vary pending your age group. And that's day 1. So you've got a long duration event and then the 4 rounds, which goes relatively quickly. I actually really like, if I'm being honest, I kind of like both of those workouts. I'm a little surprised we're doing a run again, given we had a 7K run to kick off the games last year. In my mind, I had talked myself out of a run being a possibility. I just was like, no, they won't do another run. So I'm preparing for like a row or a bike or some kind of like machine based endurance event, thinking they won't do a run. And lo and behold, we're doing another run.
We've had the past X amount of years. I think back to 2019, there was a ruck run. So you ran 1,500 meters and then added weight to a ruck pack for a total of 6,000 total meters, 6K run that year. 2020, we didn't have a Masters Games. 2021, we had a 4 mile run to open up the games. 2022, we had running mixed with rope climbs and shoulder to overhead, but significant trail running. 2023, we had a 5K run, not to open the games, but we ran. 2024, you and I were there in Birmingham, 600-meter runs into deadlifts, 4 rounds of that. So 2,400 meters of running, not much. That was the long event that year,
Hmm.
but it was only 12 minutes or 13 minutes. Last year, of course, we had the 7K run. So with all of that, I was keeping myself in decent running shape, but definitely not planning a long run. I just thought the games is the place where they test the run because they can. And they've tested the run almost every year that I've been there. So while in my mind, and even for Boulder athletes, we were not in the position where we were preparing for a 5K or a 10K style run. We had running mixed in to our capacity sessions and some of our main sessions just to ensure that if they throw something at us, we had it. Now, the only thing that definitely threw me off this year was, okay, you can run 600 meters. Can you do it with 50 pounds on your back? And how does that change that run? You tested it and I tested it. What part of your body, or what was the weighted run like for you?
Yeah, good question. First I would say it was a little bit better than I anticipated. I would say it was a lot better than I anticipated. Not to say this is like an event that I feel so confident in, but I had imagined the worst and thinking that, man, by the time try to sling that 50 pounds on my back, I'm going to be hunched over. Am I going to have to walk part of this? Like, I don't know. And so that wasn't the case. Now, I didn't push it at games pace during the test run, but I gave it a good run and I was able to pick up the pace and we held negative splits. Justin Brewer and I did this together and we held negative splits per round and was able to finish with a little bit of kick at the end in that
Mm.
final bag. And so we used the bags that we were able to lay across our shoulders and kind of hold on each side. My hope is that's what we'll use. And you have mentioned this, that given Rogue is the sponsor, and there's a Rogue bag that is a 50-pound sandbag that does that. Feels like there's signal to suggest that's probably what we'll do. And yeah, so overall, I would say it felt better. Did my calves and feet blow up? Yeah, they did, but they kind of do that every time, so that wasn't
Yeah,
all that unique. But yeah, I'm not
same.
nearly fearful of that event as I was initially. I'm actually like, huh, given my body weight, this might actually be better that we have a bag for me as opposed to just a pure run, in which case, you got some just great runners out there that are going to smoke it.
That's the thing I was thinking about. I was thinking of, the age group that I just came from and the age group that I'm in now, and I'm thinking about these just lightning fast runners that I know, right? And And if there's a 5K, if there's a 10K, a 7K, whatever the distance, I can pick the guys that are going to win because it just know they're 170 pounds. It can run like the wind, and it's awesome. So
Yeah.
you're right. For guys like you and I that are over 200 pounds, you throw that weight into the mix, and now there's a little bit of an equalizer in there, and it's a bit of a grit test to me. When I was testing it, I was like, oh, this just hurts. That's
Hmm.
all. It just hurts. And it doesn't, and it's interesting. If I was programming this, I was trying to think, would I have had the weighted run first and then the unweighted second? Because that creates this insane foot race at the end.
Yeah.
If you were unweighted at the end, when you're in a foot race with 50 pounds on your back at the end, it is, I mean, you can push a
That's
little bit,
enough
but it's
to get
not
to.
like this like scramble. It's going to be some really gnarly faces. A photographer is going to get some real good stuff, good content at the end of that because there's a lot of agony if you're just trying to race another guy for the last 100 yards with 50 pounds on your back, or 30 for the ladies. They're using med balls, and I don't
Yeah.
know if you can
More awkward.
imagine that is a slippery, awkward hold. There's nothing centered. If we technically, you and I, if we actually do have that double handle over the shoulder, it has its own unique feel for tiring shoulders out. But good luck, ladies. That's a grinder. It's a grinder for all of us, but I would definitely prefer a sandbag that has some grippiness to my sweaty shoulders, as opposed to leather, which is going to slip right off. So
No doubt.
event one is the long event. The time cap, Josh, is 30 minutes. And I think very few of the athletes will hit that time cap. I think this will go in, like you said, 18 to 25 minutes for most of the age groups.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. I'm looking forward to it. The next one, getting the 4 rounds, the 25, or for me, for my age group, it's 25 toes to bar, 75 double unders, and then 4, 3, 2, 1 snatch with ascending weight, finishing at 225. I think yours are 20 toes to bar, 60 double unders, and then you finish at
Yes.
205 or 250? 205.
And so I finish as a 50 plus, I finish at 195.
That's right.
I mean,
195.
I know
Yeah.
you can single arm snatch that, which is just not fair, but
Wish.
you know, it's,
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate if I think about what a 50 to 55-year-old is capable of. While we might go a little faster through this because of our decreased reps and our lighter weights, I think the stimulus in the end, when we both cross the finish line, the stimulus will have done its job. I think it changes it a little bit, and for the oldest age groups, that snatch becomes a little bit too light. I think they will move extraordinarily fast. But that's always a feedback loop to get back to HQ and any team that's running the Masters on like what are the older age groups capable of, and they're still learning. They'll still as more Masters athletes age up, they're learning what a 40-year-old can do now, or what a 50-year-old can do now, what a 55, 60, 65-year-old is capable of. And, it's events like this or some of the other events we'll talk about later where the feedback loop will be loud and clear back to HQ. Like some of this is too light for them, but within the meat and potatoes of the age groups, I think the stimulus on this one is pretty similar.
Yeah, I think that the overscaling for the age groups is more apparent in some of the other workouts. I think the stimulus is similar here. I mean, I know for me, like that 225, hey, that's not anything to sneeze at. And so you're going to have to gear up and prep for that. And I did do this workout and it went well. And I like the balance of this workout because you look at it and you're like, hey, you've got some gymnastics here and some midline endurance that I can think of a handful of guys that are going to do exceptionally well there. But
Yes.
it balances out with that snatch where like, well, those
Yeah.
same guys actually, are not the big powerhouses that are going to just throw that around. They're going to
Yeah.
have to really take their time with it. And so I like the balance of this workout. This is one of my favorites on paper. The third workout is one that was just released, which has got a two-parter. It's a part A and a part B. The part A being 1,000-meter row and part B being max distance handstand walk in the time remaining. And it's a 6-minute total
Yeah.
cap. 900 meters for your age group, 1,000 meters for mine. We both tested this today and it went very differently for both of us. I can say that. But boy, yeah. Well, before I get into it, you give your take on this
Well,
one.
I'm going to echo what you said about event number two being this well balanced. You have to earn your way to the heavy lifting. On this one, you have to earn your way to the high skill gymnastics. This isn't just a gimme for the high skilled gymnastics athletes. because there's people that are just, incredibly good at walking on their hands. And those athletes have just this incredible advantage on this. Like if you can walk on your hands all day, you're going to do well in this workout. This is for me. I look at this, I'm like, man, this is a layup on the handstand walking side of things. However, that's only worth 50 points. The other 50 points on this is maximal power output in like a 3-minute window, give or take. So you've got 1,000 meters, I have 900 meters, and then the ladies have appropriate adjustments for them as well. So I do like the fact that this is a 50-50. I like that it's scored in that sense. You have the bigger power athlete that can just smash that rower, but they also have to be fit enough to hang on for the duration. If it was a 500-meter row, it's just lay down the hammer. 1,000-meter row or even 900 is a bit of an anaerobic test, not just a little power output. This is, well, I mean, as you and I experienced it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. That's what 1,900 meters feels like when you're really giving it a push. That is gross. And then you have this gymnastics athlete under significant fatigue that now has to enter the handstand walk. They don't just get to do it fresh. So again, this is like the last workout you just talked about. I like the balance here.
Yeah.
I like the high skill being included because this is something that I think masters athletes, or at least we train significantly because it's such a good shoulder endurance piece. So to see it tested like this, I think is a fun way. It's not just interference in another workout; it is the test, the actual shoulder endurance on the handstand walk.
Yeah, I always like looking at workouts where I instantly am like, I can assign an athlete type to this movement, and then I can assign an athlete type to that movement, and they're different. To
Hmm.
me, then it's like, aha. Those tend to, I mean, I selfishly like those because I'm not one or the other. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. And so the ones that demand balance, I favor, and they tend to favor me. So I don't think I'm going to do exceptionally well on either one of those. My hope is to do pretty good, really good on both of them. So then workout number 4, by the way, this is
Before
on
we move
Wednesday.
on, before we
Yeah.
jump into that one, this was one of those workouts, Josh, that you and I saw some of our athletes talking about in our community group of
Yeah.
games athletes. This was one of those where some of the scaling in the upper age groups created a little bit of a fuss, to say the least. So when you have, is it 65 plus for this workout doesn't do handstand walking. They're doing overhead walks with dumbbells over their head. Now, I have talked with an athlete that tested this, and she said this is actually a test. It is a shoulder endurance test. If they're thinking about trying to maintain a stimulus without the high skill, they are nailing that. Does that make sense? Like the stimulus is correct from a shoulder endurance standpoint, but the removal of the high skill is definitely frustrating for some of those athletes that have
Have it.
seen handstand walking in qualifiers. They've seen it in other competitions, and they get to go to the CrossFit Games, the highest level event possible, and they're carrying dumbbells overhead. So I just want to acknowledge that and let those athletes know that this is the type of feedback that, those of us, like I can provide this back via the athlete council to help CrossFit build a bit of a standardized scaling per age group sort of matrix, if we want to think of it like that. It's just an example of where we could try to let HQ know that there are athletes that practice these high skills and that these high skills are going to be moving up in the age groups with them. And I just wanted to acknowledge those athletes that are listening that are groups in some of the overall workouts, but this one was one of them where, yeah, you're missing that high skill test.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you acknowledging that. I know a handful of athletes that we're close with appreciate that as well. And yeah, I agree. Like you expect the games to be like the pinnacle of skill and strength and fit, all things fitness intersecting in one. And then you with a workout like this, unfortunately, it feels like, oh, this one was maybe overcorrected a little bit because there are a number of athletes in that age group that they possess this. This is a skill that they have worked on very intentionally and possess it because they know it's something that is a unique gift to them and they want to express that on the biggest stage. And so then to get the opportunity and then have it kind of overcorrected is definitely frustrating. I share that frustration for them. But what we can control now is like providing the feedback, making sure that it gets acknowledged by the right people. And then hopefully you see the adaptation in years to come. Okay, so then workout number 4, this is a spicy one. So 45, I don't. what is it a 9-minute cap, I think, on this one?
Yes. This is
Super
the
tight.
that is the issue. That
Yeah.
is the workout, the 9-minute cap.
45 pull-ups, or this is my age group at least. You'll have to tell me what yours are. 45 pull-ups, 20 box step overs with 50-pound dumbbells, 35 chest to bar, 20 box step overs, 25 bar muscle ups, finished off with 20 box step overs. Your rep scheme is a little different, but close.
40, 30, 20. That's the only changes. Yep.
Yeah, and a 9-minute cap, and holy Moses, that is fast. I tested this, and I won't give away all my secrets, but I went in with a conservative strategy, and I realized I need to be more conservative. That's my takeaway.
This is an unrelenting grippy workout. It it has us holding on to something for, ideally sub 9 minutes or, no more than 9 minutes, but you're literally holding on to something the entire time. And in testing this, I was, my heart rate was high, but I wasn't fatigued specifically from the step overs, although those keeping my heart rate high. I never took a break because step overs are hard. That's not the issue. It's that the grip, it's the holding on to these dumbbells. Actually, my dumbbells are slightly lighter than yours, 5 pounds lighter, but still, it was exactly what we anticipated. I think even before we tested, we're like, well, this is grippy. Let's plan and think through how we're going to navigate this because when you're doing pulling movements like pull-ups, chest to bar, bar muscle ups, which are easy, a little harder, a little hardest, and then your grip is getting worse and more fatigued, it creates this. It reminds me of those old like monster truck rallies where they have like the sled pull, where they the weight gets heavier and the engine's going faster until they just stop moving at the end. I've never been to one of those, but I used to watch them on TV and it was like, it just is like that. Like the work gets harder, the fatigue skyrockets, and everything culminates in this, well, bar muscle ups, which one create this high skill challenge at the end with just a maxed out grip. And then once you get through that, you have a dumbbell step over race.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to come down to. You're going to look at the other
Can you
guy
get there
who picks up
before
his dumbbells before you. Yeah. Now, can you hang on to dumbbells for a set of 20 right there? That's going to get super gross, super painful. And honestly, like there's just going to be like some straight up failures where dumbbells just don't stay in people's hands, But yeah, grip upon grip. And after having tested the row workout today, and then knowing after that row workout we do this, that grip's not going to be fresh going into it. So interesting timing on how all this will play out on that day.
I hope there's
Be
plenty
fun.
of time to recover between those 2 workouts, although their
I
time
mean,
frames are very
there,
different.
yeah, there's gonna be plenty of time, but I think, I mean, we're not going to feel as fresh as we would like moving into this fourth technical workout.
Yeah. And then following that workout, what I think is gonna be the 3rd workout of day 2 is my personal favorite. It is for time, 21:15.9 thrusters and 12:96 burpees over the bar. I don't know what the time domain is, but it's gonna be rocket
Four
fuel
minutes.
fast. 4 minutes? Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna go real quick. There's no time to breathe. This one is just go. There's no strategy. It is absolutely burn this one to the ground. And this is going to be a super interesting race. The only question I have is like, are we going to be able to do this all in one place on the floor, or do we have to advance the bar? And if we have to advance the bar, it does make it a little bit more interesting from a spectator's point of view, because naturally you're seeing where people are at and it adds some fun as a viewer, but it is going to slow this down unnecessarily.
Yeah, and I do think that from the viewer perspective, you have to move the barbell. But it depends on how it's set up on the floor. It's there's when you have that many barbells clanging and banging and rolling around, it can get chaotic and it can get a little tricky for judges moving and it's just a lot of commotion. Now, that does make for a lot of entertainment. And if we have to, round one, do it there, then move it for round two, it's going to have this pure chaos to it. And, Josh, even in I did it in one spot in testing, but trying to get a barbell to settle down before you do burpees
Yeah.
is part of the technical process here. It's not just drop that barbell and start banging out some burpees because that thing could launch anywhere. So that in the briefing they're going to tell us you have to control the barbell down, and we're all going to ask questions on what do you mean? What does that really look like? Because this workout is going to be separated by seconds, and running across the finish line on a workout like this, you hope that there's a camera watching the finals. Joey and I, in fact, at semifinals at Legends, Joey Hushman and I had a workout where it looked like we both touched that final mat at the same exact time.
Yeah.
And we looked back at our judges. We're like, well, whatever happens, happens. That was a great event. That was super fun to basically finish at the same time. They had to go back and review the film, review the footage to determine whose foot touched first. And it was milliseconds. I got lucky to have had my foot touch because Joey was fast. This is one of those workouts where you got to have something like that in place because it's just going to be milliseconds separating athletes. And now I know I did this where I ran in, I tested it, and then I ran out as if there was an
Mm.
end finishing line. My legs did not want to work. So there's going to be some diving happening as well.
Yeah, this was a dive across the bar, and then I'm done. That's how I finished.
Yes,
There was no sprint. No, actually, I jumped across the bar and I stayed standing. But
for
yeah, if
briefly.
having to sprint, it would add some fun to the finish. That's for sure.
This is a workout I was slightly disappointed when I first saw this workout because I was like, I wish it was a heavier barbell. I wish this is just something that anyone could do, which is technically true. And would it have been more interesting with a 135-pound bar? I don't know because now people are breaking it up. I would love to see this workout done at 135 pounds unbroken, just the way we're doing it at 95. But after testing it at 95, knowing that this is a very tight time cap and that they are just expecting an all out sprint, I take it back. I don't want to do this at 135. 95 is plenty painful. So to see all of the age groups, to see Noah Olson do it and Travis Mayer at age 35 and Boonstra at 42 and Grubb at 50 and athletes at 55, 60. I can't wait to see how this one plays out. I think it'll be entertaining. I think we're going to move our barbell. Even though I talked about all that commotion, I think we're moving the barbell because to be an audience, a spectator, and see people moving their barbell forward in just these, just seconds between athletes, it's going to be really fun to know exactly where athletes are at, and then boom, finish line and done. But it's going to be carnage across that finish line every heat.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those, like, you're not even barely breathing during this workout. You're kinda just holding your breath and going. So there's gonna be some, yeah, nuclear moments there when this one's all said and done. The other thing that just popped in my head in terms of, like, kind of observing as a spectator is in workout number 2, the one with the snatches at the 4 weights. My hope is that there will be 4 bars, instead of having to put weight on your bar yourself as an athlete, which we have done. And so it would not be abnormal if that is the case. But what's more fun is not watching athletes put weights on bar, instead sprinting from the previous movement
Yes.
to the new thing, getting right to a fresh barbell and gripping and
Yep.
ripping. So I
Yep.
hope that that's the case. And that could work nicely on a floor, down a lane from
Agree.
a rig to the jump rope into a bar and having to run back to the rig. I would anticipate that, but I guess we'll only find
I
out.
sure hope so. And I just, part of me thinks like, Rogue is in town for this event. You've got the Masters games, you've got the CrossFit games. Like this is not a distributed event. Rogue doesn't have to pull from their warehouse and be at two separate cities at one time. They're in one city. Man, if they could just make sure that they loaded on enough barbells to make sure that the way this is going to be set up, which I have heard is it's going to be, the men on one side, ladies on the other side, just like the Legends semifinals. I don't know how many lanes on each side. I'd assume 10-ish, but I don't know that. So, that does make for a lot of barbells all at one time. But again, they're there. And I completely agree with you that if Joe has said that this will be the most entertaining games that they've done. So that leads to that same conclusion that you have. Like, give us 4 barbells on event number 2 so we can progress down that way. Loading barbells is not exciting. That's for sure. And it actually becomes part of the test. I don't want to be tested on my ability to clamp and unclamp, which we have had to do.
Exactly. Yeah, in 2024, there was a snatch speed ladder, and you had to change your own weights, and it was a mess. I
A
mean,
mess.
you get one sticky clamp, and
Seriously. And if you get confused, there was a certain point where I got confused about the weight that was on my bar.
yeah, yeah.
And again, it was they made the math really simple. They just said take this off, put this on, put this on, put this on. It was like that. But along the way, my brain got confused. I thought that I had more weight on the bar than I was supposed to have. And so I got to the last snatch and I was like, this is heavier than it's supposed to be. I still snatched it. But afterwards, I was talking to my judge, like, I think I had too much weight on the bar. And, all that is just because I'm delusional. I'm in the middle of a workout. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't count. But I was panicked. So I don't want to be panicking like that. But whatever they dish out to us, we will do. We definitely have our preferences on what we would like to show the spectators. So that's what we know about the game so far. That's
That's
it,
what we
Josh.
know. That's 5 workouts, all of which have been tested. It would be really nice to get some information this evening around, "Hey, you've got X total workouts for the not the weekend, I guess the week or the
Yes.
competition," and maybe get another one released. I'm trying to recall if last year did they announce all the workouts in advance, or did they hold a couple? I don't.
They were all announced in advance. I remember even testing the final workout before going to the games. Yep.
Interesting. So, I mean, today you would think would be that day. Like by
That's what I
tonight.
would be. That's what I would think. I would think that today is the day, but they could, just theoretically, they've been releasing a workout every other night since event number one at 6 p.m. So we're on the night of that cadence. So we're just waiting on that tonight. And they technically have Sunday. So if they were working backwards and they're like, we want to release the final event, again, this is in the hypothetical world that we have 7 total events. They could release that final event Sunday, and it still leaves Monday for the check-in and the walkthrough of the events, right? Or the athlete briefing. So technically, they've built themselves working backwards enough time to release one tonight and release one Sunday. They could also post tonight, hey, final event, event 6, and release it. So I'd be really curious to see how they phrase the final announcement in an hour and 15 minutes. That's going to be a clue for us. I hope they just say event 6 is this and they don't say anything else. And then I'll have this hope that Sunday night, there's going to be the final event released and we're going to go through all of it on Monday. But
Yeah.
we're just speculating. It's again speculation. If I was, that's what I would do if I was doing it. Let's say it that way.
And as I'm again, this is just more speculation here, but you look at the 5 workouts, you look at the different time domains, you've got your 30-minute cap, you've got I forget what this event 2 cap is. Is it 12 minutes?
I think it's 12. Yeah.
And then you've got your 6-minute cap, and then you've got a 9-minute cap, and then you have a 4-minute cap. We don't yet have that kind of mid 15 to 18-minute
This
range.
is true. Yeah.
And so it feels like there could be something along those lines coming. I'm thinking to Del Mar as well on the semifinal there. The last event was a big, nasty chipper. And I forget what the time cap was there, but I know a lot of guys got capped. In fact, I don't think anybody finished that last
Well,
workout.
I think about some of the movements we haven't seen.
Hmm.
We haven't seen rope climbs yet. Haven't seen anything related to wall walks or handstand push-ups. We do have handstand walk. And we haven't seen wall balls, which is something that is we've almost always seen.
No echo button.
No echo bike yet. No other machine, just a row on the machine. There is a good amount of potential tests that we haven't seen, uh, that they could test in something big on that final day. But we really haven't seen a ton of barbell, if we think about it, unless am I missing? So we have the snatch for a barbell, we have thrusters
Yeah,
for a
thrusters.
barbell. That's it.
Yeah. Like to me, this is me just hoping, but some kind of a barbell complex is what it feels like we should have. Because I'm thinking we're going to get at least 2 more workouts.
Let's
I think
go.
we're going to get a
I'm
6
with
and
you.
a
Let's
7.
do that.
I think
Yeah.
one's going to be in the 15-minute range, and I think one's going to be some kind of a heavy, establish a heavy something, and that
Mhm.
something is going to involve a barbell. And I would like to see that given like right now 225 a 225 snatch is the only expression of real
Yes.
strength, plenty of endurance, plenty of gymnastics endurance, but there's no strength expression aside from your ability to lift that barbell in a snatch after a whole bunch of fatigue. And so, man,
To
I
support
gotta
your
think something
claim,
like
to
that coming.
support your thought there, I think back to the years that I've been there. 2018, I was in your I was 42 in 28 42, 40, whatever. Yeah, I was 42 in the 2018 games. We had we had a snatch that went up to 245 even, Josh. 2 at 245, bro. But then we also had a max jerk later later in that event week. So those were heavy expressions. 2019, like I said, we had those 3 workouts at the very end. One was a 2 rep max overhead squat. 2024, second to last day, we had max front squat. It was the 9th event, max front squat. So these guys, games and legends, are not afraid to put something heavy after 2 days of hard work. So I can
Mhm.
support your thesis that there could be something like that coming. My concern is, of course, how much can they get away with in the amount of time that they have on that final day, and what needs to get done on that final day? Can they pull off a complex? If it's a complex and it was, say, 4 to 5 minutes, they could really cycle people through that. All the heats, that would be amazing, and then have that longer workout as well. Those longer workouts just take more, significantly more time. Maybe they even have a cut for a final longer workout, which would be slightly unfortunate because you want that longer workout to be part of an overall test to get people to a final event. But however that works out, sometimes they do that. They have the cuts. They had a cut out of in Del Mar, I think. Was there a cut before that final? Or maybe I don't, maybe there wasn't. I don't remember. We haven't heard anything about cuts. There's been no rumors about that. But can
Yeah.
they get 2 more done on that last day? I hope they can. Or I think we'll all be a bit disappointed if they don't. We can live with it. We'll move on. It's okay. But I think we do want something like what you just said, something a little longer that's really gross, and a heavy complex, a heavy lift. I mean, a max jerk would be really an interesting piece. It hasn't been tested in 8 years. They didn't have jerk blocks for us out there. We just took them off of racks. That was it. You just had to re-rack it. It was awful. I flew really close to the sun after hitting a PR snatch for me, and failed. I got 18th out of 20 in the snatch event in 2018. But hey, you know, they tested it. Be great.
We will see. I think we can logic and reason this thing into the ground on, and I mean, I feel actually fairly good about the logic and the reasoning, but there's just no way to know. So hopefully we'll learn more tonight and we'll just see. Okay, now I'm going to shift our conversation because we want to talk about the next cycle, which, by the way, thanks for this part of the conversation that you and I have been talking about this every day. And I think we could probably continue talking about it for a while
Thank you
longer.
to the audience for indulging us and
That's
listening
right.
to us think through this.
100%. Okay, now for the next cycle, which is applicable to all boulder athletes, not just those that are competing next week. Next cycle, yeah, give us a rundown. What's it called? What's the focus? What have you been thinking about going into this and planning, and changes we should expect, and all the fun things?
Well, what we're thinking here is the absolute off-season cycle. There's been we've been through the qualifier cycles, and not all athletes have been on the same trajectory as the games athletes or the elite track. But really, there's always a cohesiveness to all of boulder athletes. So there's been some really fun dosages of workouts that even the compete core scaled minimal athletes have got to enjoy on a Saturday that had us maybe reaching for the sun a little bit more on the elite track. When we move into this next cycle, which starts July 20th, which is Monday, so we'll be at the games competing. We'll take some time off. We'll jump into this as the games athletes, halfway through week 2, or whenever we start to feel better after the games. But this is called base under pressure. It's an off-season cycle. It's a 6-week cycle that in and of itself is its own cycle. I would say there will be a second 6-week cycle after this, which continues some of the work that we're doing here. But what we're thinking is off-season type work. Off-season meaning building overall strength, rebuilding high-level skills, which we always do under fatigue to a certain extent as boulder athletes. More Olympic lifting. So what we typically do when we're training in season is we have Olympic lifting essentially 3 days a week. If we would think snatch, clean and jerk, just to be 3 days of that. As we move into this cycle, we'll have snatch, jerk, clean, period, which is fun. Just have a clean, not with
I was
jerks
just
attached to
thinking
it.
that, like, "Oh,
Yeah,
man, that'd be
dude,
great."
how it's gonna be just paradise. It'd be so nice to clean without having to jerk that stupid bar. And then on Saturdays, we have both snatch and clean and jerk. So we're touching early in the week Olympic lifting. Then Saturday we're doing squat clean, squat snatch work dedicated on Saturday. So it gives us 2 touches a week at some of those most technical lifts, which just they do require practice, and you do at times of the year want to bias towards building that Olympic base. And that's really what we say, base under pressure, because we're not letting off the gas as masters athletes. It's my belief that we can't just stop conditioning and go all in on strength and Olympic lifting work. We don't build back the way the 22-year-old athlete does. So we always have a rebuilding of the base with just a little bit of pressure, keeping that overall cardiovascular system intact and not primed as if we're going into the open or the games, but we're still going to be the fittest masters athletes around. We're just going to be having a few more touches on snatch, clean and jerk, front squat, back squat, deadlift, bench. We tend to think of this as strength that will carry us over this next, I want to say 14 weeks, 6 weeks plus a deload, 6 weeks plus a deload. This will start to carry us all the way to where we start prepping for the open again, which is insane. We'll start ramping that back up. But we'll also be touching, as always, high skill gymnastics that gets progressively more challenging as the cycle builds. For the elite track, that gymnastics is always under fatigue, meaning we do GHD sit ups before ring muscle ups. For the compete track, it will be ring muscle up, building that skill with GHDs afterwards in an interval cycle so that you're not as fatigued while you hone in those skills. But, the things that remain the same for competing elite athletes: pulling endurance, core endurance, pushing endurance, Friday pushing endurance, which is a little bit more bench oriented, kind of fun, meaning horizontal pressing endurance. Saturday, aerobic endurance is what compete in elite tracks will open with, which is new for this cycle. And it's just machine based, super fun stuff to be really warm, really sweaty before we start doing Olympic lifting. For the compete track, we've got gymnastics first, and then the fatigue comes in. And then I think I was getting to the point where I was mentioning that for the elite and compete track, we have pulling endurance Monday, core endurance Tuesday, pushing endurance Wednesday, horizontal pushing endurance Friday, and then aerobic endurance on Saturday. That
Yeah, like
is new for us. It'll make us nice and warm. We'll be ready for those Olympic lifts on Saturday. So what you'll feel overall as athletes is, lighter, some more simpler conditioning. We'll have some classic conditioning in there as well. Week 6 will be a testing week. So we'll be testing heavy for the day or 1 rep maxes, depending on how the body is feeling that day. Along the road, along this cycle and the next cycle, we'll be testing a few of our benchmarks as well. So some really fun workouts. We do a lot of work that feels like we're just training. Man, we're just training and training. Now, we are doing that on the lifting side of things here. We are just straight up training. But some of the conditioning is going to have some elements where what I hope to hear via a message from you after maybe a Monday or a Friday session is, man, that was tough, but that finisher, man, that was fun. I haven't seen something like that in a while. So that's kind of what we're going for there.
okay, well, God, I'm definitely looking forward to that. What's coming to mind for me, as you've mentioned this now a couple times, is the core endurance, and I brought this up as well, because some of the recent core endurances that we have done in the current cycle have been like, I'm looking at it on paper, like, is this a typo? Like, what? We're gonna do 100 toes bar and 100 GHDs in the same dang workout? And yet we did, and yes, I was sore for like 4 days, could barely get out of my chair. But then to find that my capacity was I was adapting to that volume, and I was able to
Yes.
repeat those types of workouts over the next 3, 4 weeks, and then lo and behold, here we are, preparing for the games, and there's a workout with 100 toes to bar in it, and man, I while they're still gonna be tough, like, no way around the challenge that is presented there, I couldn't be more ready to take that
Yes.
on thanks to our
Yes.
programming, so, yeah, thank goodness we've been doing those days.
Well, and that's the goal when we head to major competitions like the games, or even when we're preparing for quarterfinals, semifinals, or even all the way back to the open. My goal is to make our athletes slightly over prepared, right? So you
Okay.
actually you're ready for a workout that would happen to have 100 GHDs and 100 toes to bar. Luckily, it's only 100 toes to bar, no big deal. And it's fun to watch your specific capacity increase over this past year. And the shift that we'll feel, especially on the elite track, but even on the other tracks as we move into this cycle, is it's like it won't be as relentless. You know, you're going to, this is a good time to enjoy the sense of like, this is just healthy training, right? We're not destroying our core on a Tuesday, but we are touching it, and we will always touch it. And not necessarily always on a Tuesday, but that core endurance is a significant part of building what we need, the foundational building blocks to be great athletes, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll touch it, but yeah, we won't see 200 core folding movements again for probably another 11 months, Josh. So just thank God, because that there were times when I was doing that thinking, and I had some pretty tight time frames in there as well. It wasn't, you didn't just get done and get to rest for a while. It was like, oh my God, we're starting again. How many rounds is this? 5 rounds? I wrote 5 rounds. I'd be asking guys, I'm trying, is that what I put? Okay, five. Oh, okay. Because there is the math is what I'm going after behind the computer. And then the actual activity of doing it is, whew, I'm an athlete along with you there, Josh.
Yeah,
Questioning the
buddy.
guy. Who is that guy?
Well, I remember that one in particular, and there was like 15 seconds. You're in round 1 like, "Oh, this is tough," and then round 2, "Hello." Round 3, "There's no way. There's no way." And then round 4, like, "Somehow I've made it. Can I just hang on for one more?" And then, "Okay, thank goodness I've finished this thing." And man,
Yes.
there was some survival moments in there for sure, but
I mean, I'm there with you. And taking a look at core endurance, for example, week one is 4 sets every 2 minutes, 40-second sandbag bear hug hold, 15 toes to bar.
those were nasty. Those bear hug
You're
sandbag hold.
welcome. Yes.
Oh, man, I disliked those. 50-second hold, it was in that same workout. I think
Yes.
we did 20 toes to bar because it was 5 rounds, 20 toes to bar, a 60-second sandbag hold into 20 GHD sit-ups into, like, 20 Russian kettlebell.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one. That was
It was
specifically
every
the
3
one.
minutes and 30 seconds for 5 rounds.
Yes.
Man, that's
Yep.
seared in my mind, that one.
It should be. And the this will have us, even going back to even thinking about Monday pulling endurance. The last pulling endurance that we did as part of training was 15, 12, 9 unbroken ring muscle ups combined with ski erg, right? This was
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah, yeah.
test that we did.
Great one.
Moving into this cycle, we're rebuilding and allowing ourselves to have normal training again. We're not trying to ride the edge. We're not trying to, be at our peak. We're trying to create for ourselves the longevity that we want in a sport like this. So, the first Monday of the cycle, we've got 5 sets, 10 GHD sit-ups into 4 ring muscle ups, going every 3 minutes. So that volume on week one has 20 ring muscle ups, for example, for the elite track. By the time we get to week five, we're at 6 sets, 14 GHDs, 6 ring muscle ups. Now we're up to 36 ring muscle ups. So we have this healthy ramp back up. And that's how I like to program. I think
Yeah,
that's what's helped me stay injury free, stay at the top of my game, is having this build up peak, both as like training into the end of a cycle where the volume is higher, everything is tested a little bit more. It's kind of fun. And then, man, we deload and we get to reset and run into another cycle and build back up. So it allows us to express our fitness in a build up, progressive, thoughtful way, but not stay there, because that's not sustainable. And what we've been training in the past few weeks is, as you and I know, is not sustainable. Like the aches and pains will just overcome. We won't be able to overcome those. And when we train more like an athlete that's looking for longevity, this is what we get to enjoy. Now, that's not to say that we're playing patty cake. We have legitimate Olympic lifts. It's going to start out really nice, really gentle, progressively building to what I'm hoping for me during this off season is some new maxes on my clean and jerk and my snatch. I'd really like to hit some numbers. in the off season that I can carry into next year. I've got some specific numbers. I'll never hit what you hit. I'm too late in the game for that. But I have some thoughts in mind that I think I could do as a 50-year-old. And I'd like to set those PRs. So this will help us get there.
Yeah, a couple things are coming to mind. And so one, I also you said you really like that kind of programming where we slowly build it up over the course of a cycle. And here's where my head is going. There is a major advantage to that, especially for a master's athlete. And I think this is the way. This is the recipe. And the not because I'm a boulder athlete and I'm really biased, it's because you really create the opportunity for adaptation to for the volume, but also for the movement capacity. And so there's never a time during that ramp where you're like, oh, this movement, and there's this jarring kind of approach to the system where you're like, I'm having to not only adapt to a new volume, but a new pattern of movement that, yes, it's a standard movement in CrossFit, but it's a different pattern than what we've been doing for the last
Yeah.
4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
And so that's where it starts to feel a little bit more like there are programs that are a little bit more randomized. And some people love the randomization, and that randomization can be really effective to drive adaptation, but your body has to be able to respond to all that randomization. And as an older master's athlete, your ability to just like, hey, we're just going to do this movement now. And by the way, a
Right.
lot of them. And we haven't
Yeah.
built up to that kind of a volume with this movement. Now we're going to do this movement. And by the way, you're going to do a lot of them. And while it's engaging and fun looking on paper, as a master's athlete, you haven't appropriately primed for that. And so back to the way that that you program it, which I really like, some would say, well, it gets a little monotonous when you're doing like every week for 6 weeks, I can kind of anticipate
Yep.
the slow climb.
Yep.
And like for me, I'm like, well, hell yeah, that's exactly what I respond to because one, I know what I did the week prior, and I'm like, I kind of want to beat that. We've added just a little bit, a couple more reps, a little bit more volume. So I'm competing with myself, but I also have a ton of confidence in like, well, I've proven that I could do it last week, and now I want to prove that I can do this. And that adds to my incentive day after day after day. And so I think it does enable greater longevity. I think it drives great adaptation. And I'm saying this because I think it's a safer approach, honestly, and a really damn productive approach for a master's athlete. I'm not saying that other programming, like more randomized programming, isn't effective. I think it really is, but I don't know if it's the best type of programming for a master's athlete in particular.
You and I have both experienced programs where you haven't done a movement in weeks, and then you have a workout that has an
A lot of
incredible
it.
amount of those workouts, or quite amount of those movements, and you think to yourself, "Oh, I haven't climbed a rope in 6 weeks, and now I'm going to do 18 in this workout." And you're like, "Well, good, I'm getting a good dosage." But that's, I mean, I can't think of a great analogy like that, but it's like not having pizza or not eating for 6 weeks and then pounding like 3 pizzas. Like you're going to disrupt the system a little bit there. But I
Which, by
like
the
the
way, I do that.
I mean, but and it does disrupt the system.
It
In fact,
does.
it does. It's not pleasant. But if you, the way I see things, and I like this for all athletes, but especially for masters athletes. If you take a look at a 6 week program and you swap 2 weeks, let's say you take week 2 and week 4 and just swap them, and it doesn't feel different at all, I don't think that's a well thought out program. Week 1 should lead into week 2. Week 2 should lead into week 3. There shouldn't be any of these major leapfrogs. We talked about doing 100 toes to bar and 100 GHDs and 5 minutes of a sandbag hold in a very tight time frame a couple weeks ago as part of our core endurance. We certainly didn't start there, right? And we started with 45-second sandbag holds, and we're like, oh, this is really tough. And we started with, maybe 15 toes to bar, 15 GHD sub. We built up to this hell day that we just talked about. But it wasn't, I didn't just throw this at our athletes and send them to the hospital with rhabdo. If you just jump into that, you're dangerous, or it's dangerous for you. But man, we took weeks to build to this capacity, carefully and slowly. And I think, and again, I am the most biased in this. I appreciate your feedback because you provide some of the most well-rounded feedback to me as the programmer. But I very much believe that as you get it 2 or 3 weeks into a cycle, you should start to be able to be predictive as what you think you're going to be doing the next Monday. Like, oh, if I did 4 this week, I did 5 this week, 6 this week. Well, what are we going to do next week? And if it's not 7, it's going to be a variant. Maybe it's back to 5, but now we've got more rounds. Like there's going to be some predictability to it. And then that's also, like you said, why we keep these, well, a number of reasons why we keep our cycles short, like a 6-week or sometimes even 4-week cycles, so that it doesn't become so monotonous that we're not enjoying it. We want that freshness. Then the novelty is important. That's what's fun about a hopper or something random. But if we change this up enough and frequent enough, but we're also progressive enough, I think we're able to scratch both itches in a really meaningful and safe and smart way.
Yeah, the way that I'm categorizing this in my mind, and I will say this out loud, but I might want a moment to think about it. But I think I've said something similar in a podcast prior, which is, look, I really feel like Boulder athlete programming, the number one priority is progress. And so if progress is what you prioritize also for your fitness, then I think you'll be very satisfied. If your number one priority is entertainment, and then with that entertainment comes in the form of randomization, which again, I am not throwing shade on because I have certainly enjoyed that kind of programming at different stages of my fitness, evolution, then there's probably some other programs where that entertainment value is higher and the randomization is higher. Doesn't mean that, and by the way, like I have a lot of fun doing the things that we do. So like we have entertainment value and it keeps me really engaged. But you know what keeps me most engaged? Progress.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
like making progress and that trumps everything. And the fact that I can stay healthy and continue to make progress, like, yeah, sign me up for that. So that's again my biased point of view, but then I'll follow it up with this statement, which there is not a better time to get on Boulder Athlete Programming than right now, where we're doing a full blown reset following the game season. And like, this is the time to kick off and get into it. And, you know, for folks that may have tested Boulder Athlete the last 3 weeks, like, "Ooh, man, rough timing," because the volume was wicked high. That was
Yep.
not the
Yep.
time to start. The time is right now, starting Monday, and, yeah, I hope to see a surge of folks in that month or in the next week because, yeah, it just couldn't be a more opportune time of year.
It is. This is the biggest reset of the year, because this starts to build the base under pressure. Like I always have some pressure on there, but build that base towards the 2027, what we want to achieve in 2027, right? And even for those athletes that are going after general fitness, this is the reset. This is where we start to rebuild a base. For those looking to do something in this sport in 2027, we're at that same, crossroads. And yes, this is one of the best times to start because everything is digestible and we build from here.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, for those that are listening, yes, Jason and I will always encourage you to join Bowler Athlete, regardless of the time of year. But truly, if you're considering it in any way, this is the time to take advantage of that free 3 week trial and get a feel for what's coming and naturally reach out, to Jason or myself or anybody in the Boulder Athlete community if you've got additional questions. But again, if you're in that consideration phase, this is a good spot. It's a good time.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, Jason, we've covered a lot of ground here, man. You've had a power outage. We've had all sorts of excitement in this one. Anything else related, maybe to the games or the
Hey,
programming you want to touch
yeah,
on?
how do you watch the games this year? The games is behind a paywall. This is something that the games will overall probably be trending towards. YouTube is a great distribution channel, and it does create income for CrossFit. But there is a company called Flow Elite that can help with broadcast and distribution, and they've been working with the divisional athletes or the divisional teams, the Legends, Wheel Wad, the Pit Team Throwdown to cover all of us. So we will be behind a paywall this year, and so will a number of the indie events be behind the same paywall. It is what it is. People are upset. Some people accept it, some people are upset. I'm not here to advocate in either way. I think we've been fairly spoiled in this sport to have access to whatever we want to watch for free on YouTube. Not all sports have that. I know that for me to watch the World Cup, I had to pay money this year. It's just a reality. If I want to watch an NFL game, I've got to pay money. If I want to watch college football, I've got to pay. So this is what professionalizing a sport looks like. So that's just it is what it is. But Flow Elite will be covering it. They are doing all of the distribution. They are not in charge of the cameras or who's doing the announcements, but they are distributing that feed to the world. On the indie side, some will be on YouTube, some will be on Flow Elite. For the master side, it'll all be on Flow Elite. And it's $30. It's a $30 a month subscription. I signed up and canceled so my family could watch the Legends Championship semifinal. My family will sign up and we'll cancel. It's just, hey, it's $30. That's okay. So if you want to watch us, that is how you do it. I know that a lot of people will still be live streaming it on their phones. That's fine. I have no problem with any of that. But we do encourage you if you want to watch it, we love that. If you don't get a chance to watch it, we will keep you updated. Follow Boulder Athletes social media, follow Josh, follow me. We'll try to share as much as we can about what's going on out there in California from our perspective. And the next time we talk, Josh, hopefully we've got some metal clinging around our necks. We'll see.
We will see. Yeah, we will see. And I never say this, but gosh, folks, please do like and subscribe this thing because it matters. And we do check that stuff out, and your feedback really does matter. And I know I can tell you it just pulls on my heartstrings every time I bump into somebody at an event and they're like, hey, I watched the podcast and, I love it. And that's super meaningful. So never hesitate to come up and share that with Jason or myself and like and subscribe, by the way, so we can
Yep.
also get that data.
Yep. We are never too busy to say hi. Never.
Heck yeah. Well, dude, thanks a ton for making time for this. Happy Friday. I'm going to knock this thing out and get it out tomorrow. So if you're watching
Perfect.
and listening, you might get this on Saturday.
Thanks, Josh.